All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's, late on a Friday with a recap of everything that went on down here in Santa Clara today. Niners getting ready to, head to Vegas for Super Bowl week, but there were a number of things that happened today. Of course, Niners and Chiefs go a week from Sunday in Las Vegas in the Super Bowl. 49ers a 1.5-point favorite to win the game over Kansas City. Now, today, Clint Kubiak officially jumped from the 49ers to the Saints as their offensive coordinator. He is the Niners passing game coordinator. So he's not going to jump immediately. He's going to wait until after the Super Bowl. But Clint Kubiak next year will be the offensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. That became official today. Travis Kelce did an interview today, and he said that George Kittle, in his mind, is the NFL's best tight end. There's a mutual, respect going back and forth between Kittle and Kelce, but an incredible competition, I'm sure, as well. But Kelce says Kittle's the best. I'm sure Kittle would probably say Kelce's the best. John Lynch spoke to the media today. Really interesting sit-down with John Lynch. He indicated that the Niners are going to look in-house for a replacement for Adam Peters, the new general manager of the Washington Commanders. It's probably going to be one of two guys. Tariq Ahmad, the college director of scouting for the 49ers, who's been with the Niners since 2014, or R.J. Gillen, who is the director of pro scouting. He's in his 9th year with the team. That's usually, if you're going to promote somebody to a higher-up spot, it's usually the pro personnel director or the college personnel director. My guess is it'll be Tariq Ahmad, the college director, that winds up getting the job. As far as injuries today, George Kittle's got a toe. Eric Armstead's got a foot injury. They both missed practice. It was a rest day yesterday for Trent Williams, but he was back on the field today getting ready for the Super Bowl. Kalia Davis has got an ankle, but he was a full participant at practice. Oren Burks with his shoulder and Ambry Thomas with his ankle. Those two were both limited in practice today. As far as Kansas City on their side of things, Charles Omenihu with the knee and Joe Thuney, the offensive lineman, the left guard, with a pectoral strain. They both did not practice for the Chiefs today as they prepare for Super Bowl 58. It was interesting listening to John Lynch today. He talked about and addressed the somewhat lack of hustle and that we saw on some of the plays in the NFC Championship game against Detroit. And it was shocking to see, and Lynch didn't like it at all. I mean, you could tell. I mean, that's just not the way John Lynch is wired. He said, that effort is non-negotiable, and that those things have been addressed internally. And he went on to say he'd be shocked if we saw a lack of effort in this game coming up in Super Bowl 58. You would think that's a no-brainer, but that's Lynch's perspective on it today, and he didn't seem at all pleased with the fact that this has become a topic of conversation, but even more so is not pleased that some of the players took some plays off and weren't necessarily hustling on the backside. So you could tell that's not Lynch's favorite thing. Deebo Samuel made a nice gesture with his teammates today. He bought all of his teammates personalized Beats by Dre. That's pretty cool, and handed them out to his teammates. Brock Purdy indicated to us that he plans to reach out to Steve Young before the Super Bowl just to talk a little ball. It's cool that, to me as a 49er fan, I think it's kind of cool that Brock seeks out Steve for guidance or anything, really. I mean, Steve has just got a wealth of information, really bright guy. You can never do wrong by reaching out to Steve Young and getting his thoughts on things. Mooney Ward said that he may turn it up a little bit on the first day or two in Vegas, but then he's going to lock in after that and get ready for the Super Bowl. George Kittle praised L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Watson, the chief corners, as well as linebacker Nick Bolton. He was asked about his toe injury, and he said it's just a lower extremity injury. He didn't want to expand on it. Steve Wilks said the 49ers Cadillacing in the NFL NFC title game was embarrassing. We'll talk more about Steve in a minute. The Niners practiced today in Santa Clara for the final time this season, and the rest of the practices, of course, will be done in the state of Nevada. Then Brock Purdy took the podium and said that, he never knew that Kyle had thought highly of him back in the 22 training camp, that Kyle never really gave it away in camp. That came out yesterday. He addressed it today. Purdy also indicated that the game plan for the Chiefs will be done before they board the bird to go to Las Vegas. He said that he was asked about Fred Warner's message to the team, and he said that Fred and the veterans are really preaching that every moment matters, and then not to fail to take advantage of every moment in preparation. You don't know when you're going to be in the Super Bowl again, and that was his message, or that was the message from Warner and the veterans to the rest of the team, that every moment matters. Talked about that he's got a ton of respect for Patrick Mahomes, but he's never actually talked to Patrick before. They've never met. I'm sure they'll meet and talk before this game on Sunday, a week from Sunday, I should say. He was asked if he's talked to any veteran quarterbacks, and he said that he has talked to Kurt Warner a little bit about his Super Bowl experience and plans to talk to Steve Young, as I said. I asked him about getting off to a faster start offensively in some of these games. Niners have gotten off to real slow starts against Detroit and Green Bay. Brock said it's the mindset, and went on to say, hey, you know what? We got to get into the proper mindset. He talked about having a chip on your shoulder, and that he feels like the Niners play best when their backs are firmly against the wall, and there's it's a do or die situation. And so he's going to try to see if they can get into that mindset earlier in games. Obviously, you don't want to have a bad first half against the Chiefs. You could wind up losing the game just because you don't show in the first half. He was asked about his parents. Brock Purdy was asked about his parents, and he said, it's great to have a set of parents that support him all the time. He said, my parents have got my back, win or lose. That was kind of cool to hear. He also was asked about the billboards that are going up in Arizona that say, go Brock Purdy. And he says a family friend, Kevin Rhodes, made the billboards, and he kind of smiled when he talked about it. I'm sure he loves the support from back home. And then he was asked about throwing that big bomb to Ayuk, and he said, man, BA's catch radius in practice is insane. He says, I know I can throw the ball up to him, and I know that he'll come down with it. Then Mooney Ward hit the podium and said that Kansas City, is the best team in the world. He is a former Chief. I asked him about Rashee Rice, and he said he reminds him a lot of Debo. He said you really got to be physical with him at all times. He mentioned how Travis Kelce's really smart, that he and Mahomes know each other really well. And then he went on to say, hey, man, you don't want to F up in the Super Bowl. That was the message from Mooney Ward. He was asked, what does he do to take his mind off football during the week? He says he meditates, he visualizes, and he talks to his girlfriend to take his mind off football. Then he said that, in total cornerback fashion, he said, we have no doubt that we are going to win the Super Bowl. So that was cool to hear. I asked him about Jair Brown. He said he's a great young kid and that the lights aren't too bright and that the stage is not too big for him, which is exactly what you want to hear. Then George Kittle took the podium and said it's a good feeling. He was asked about blocking Aiden Hutchinson and burying him on his back. He said it's a good feeling to put a defensive end on their back. He didn't want to talk about the toe injury, but said it wasn't serious. I asked him about Brock Purdy and how he was joking to Brock Purdy and trying to keep him loose in the first half of the Detroit game. And George said Brock is always dialed in. On the field, he switches into a different mode, and he's always 100% serious. He said George was asked about Andy Reid, and he said he loves his commercial with the chicken tendies. He says it's one of my favorite commercials of all time. He was asked about what he wants to see from his teammates and how is he going to handle Super Bowl week in Vegas, and he said stick to your routine in Las Vegas. He said, celebrate when you're done. It's fun to do some stuff, but it's more fun to win the Super Bowl. He said if your agent calls you, tell him you'll have dinner with him next week. Then he talked about Chris Jones, and he said he's a dominant one-on-one player, and mentioned that, to handle Jones, you got to double him. He said that Bolton is really a great inside linebacker. He says what really separates Kansas City's secondary from other secondaries is that they communicate at a really high level. He said they got two great corners. He said they're a hot team and they're a confident team right now. And then he was asked about Trent Williams having multiple lockers, and he's like, Trent can do what he wants. He deserves it. Nobody begrudges Trent the fact that he has two lockers. And maybe the most interesting moment of the day today was our sit down, our talk in the auditorium with Niners defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. He started off by saying, hey, that we had another great day of preparation. We're looking forward to finishing the job, which of course means winning the Super Bowl. He was asked about Patrick Mahomes and defending him. He says, man, we have our hands full. We have to be ready. This was kind of interesting too. He said, against Mahomes, we really got to be ready to defend two plays. The play that's called in the huddle and the play that he creates off schedule when that play breaks down. So you got to make sure that you plaster on your guys. If you're playing zone and he escapes the pocket and buys himself more time, you got to defend the play that was called and that you're ready to defend, and then you got to be ready to defend the next play that's coming. I thought that was really interesting, and that really is true. He said that Mahomes and Kelce are totally in sync, and that really it's just created by reps over time, and that those guys are just very much on the same page. He said we can't get caught up with the emotion of the game. There's a lot of emotion in the Super Bowl. He said we can't get caught up in that. Then I think his most, maybe the most serious moment of the day was when he was asked about the lack of effort that was shown in the NFC title game by some of his defensive players. And he said, it's unacceptable. We have to play every down. And then he said, quite frankly, it was embarrassing. And you get the feeling that John Lynch, Steve Wilks, and others are pretty disgusted by the fact that some guys took some plays off in that NFC Championship game. And, nobody wants to see that. Win, lose, draw, nobody wants to see guys Cadillacing it in any way in this next game. And it sounds like they've addressed it very seriously within the walls here of the 49er locker room. And Lynch said it's not going to happen again. He'd be shocked if it does. Wilks seemed pissed off about it. I'll be completely honest. And then he said the key in this game is we got to set the edges on the perimeter, which has been a big key for the Niners all year. But that's going to be a key in this game as well, setting the edges. He said Isaiah Pacheco's phenomenal. He runs hard inside and outside, and we're going to have to gang tackle him. So I don't think there's any question about that, too. I mean, you're going to have to get a bunch of hats on Pacheco. He runs he's ferocious. He runs hard. He runs angry. Reminds me a little bit of a young Roger Craig, going back for some of you older Niner fans. But he said, man, we got to gang tackle Pacheco. And then I asked him about Kinlaw. He says he's done a great job all year. To me, guys, Kinlaw is a major key in this game. Why? Because somebody's going to have to absorb Creed Humphrey, Thuney, Allegretti. The three interior guys for Kansas City are so damn good. And what they're going to do is, they clearly ran behind those three guys against Baltimore. And so the Niners should expect runs up the middle. Kinlaw is such a strong person, such a strong force against the run that he's going to be key. He's going to be key on inside runs that he can stack and shed and come off blocks and make tackles. But he's going to be even maybe more key on the outside runs, because if the interior offensive lineman can climb to that second level and pick off a Greenlaw or pick off a Warner, Pacheco's going to cut back and there ain't going to be nobody there. So that's the bottom line on that one. Kinlaw's got to absorb some blockers because he's the strong guy inside. He's got to absorb some blockers and hopefully keep them off the legs of Greenlaw and Warner. If Greenlaw and Warner legs are free and they're free to run and make plays, I think the 49ers are going to have a good day stopping Pacheco. If those old linemen can pick off those linebackers on the second level, Kansas City's going to win this game. So that very interesting comments there from Steve on Kinlaw. He says he likes the way Kinlaw's playing. I do too. Kinlaw's playing ferocious right now. He's flying around. He's making plays. He's playing with a ton of speed. Clearly the knees are feeling good. And he's playing fast. He's playing physical. All right, that does it from Santa Clara. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Thanks to Damon and Mary, the owners of Pig and Pickle, for being the sponsor of The Krug Show. Also, thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And thanks to all you guys as we sign off for the final time this year. It's been a pleasure bringing you guys Niner information all year long on The Krug Show. And thanks to all you guys as we approach 40,000 subs. Thanks to all you 49er fans for supporting the Crew Show on YouTube. Go Niners. We're off to Vegas. We'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and departing on Saturday. I'll be watching it at home on the couch with my 14-year-old because that's where I want to be. So anyway, thanks to all you guys for supporting the channel all year. Thanks to Kev for putting together all these videos. Done an amazing job. And if you see me in Vegas, come over and say hi, and we'll maybe share a drink or two. Have a great day, everybody. Go Niners.